Hello, everybody, and welcome to another beautiful episode of Shitcast. I am here with my lovely co-hosts, Jacob,
Yo!
Keith,
Woo!
Hey,
John,
Why am I
and
here?
yeah, aren't we all saying why are we here? That is the real question of today,
Oh, here we
really. Why
fucking
are we
go.
here?
Yep.
Yeah, here we
Yeah.
go.
Here we.
Today, we have opted for a more serious and more grounded discussion that has been inspired by a conversation with Jacob, Sean off stream, where they decided to tell me, "Oh, I'm a deep thinker. I like serious topics." Well, we're gonna find out how deep these guys can think because I think they have the deep thoughts of a fucking sandbox, personally.
Oh,
But we're gonna
hey,
find out.
we're fucking going deep today. We're playing Deep
Oh,
Rock. So
we're gonna try.
we're gonna dig.
And what's
You see,
what's
I prefer to build a ladder and go up.
yeah.
Don't need to go deep.
The pursuit of knowledge, always going up.
You know,
Oh, so what's up?
modern people, or Nietzsche said that modern people don't see God because they don't look low enough.
Yeah, well, I've discovered that Nietzsche is a goofy, and we're going
What?
to elaborate more.
Whoa!
Oh
Oh!
yeah,
Oh!
yeah, yeah,
Whoa!
yeah,
You
yeah.
fucking watch your mouth there.
No, Nietzsche's part of the goof troop, and we're going to cover that in
I'm gonna
today's
cover how
exciting.
you're wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. We're in today's exciting topic of philosophy when it comes to morals and ethics, because I'm surprising my co-hosts with a nice in-depth topic on how the government actually functions. Not what the average person thinks the government is, but what the government is actually philosophically supposed to be and how it is actually designed.
Hmm.
so should
Okay.
I have my tinfoil hat on, or
Oh, get all the tinfoil, get the tinfoil shoes. And that starts with our first foundational topic, morals and ethics. And really that goes back to, and more specifically, Western values on morals and ethics,
Yep.
started by basically the founders of free thought and critical thinking, Socrates himself, who
Born
inspired
in the
people
West.
like, yes, the
Okay,
West
I
is
didn't know
Europe.
that.
Europe is considered the West.
What?
Western
No, it's
civilized-
not. That's the East. You fucking
No.
idiot.
100%
It's east-
true.
Okay, no.
What?
West is that because you don't remember the old world versus so it was Asia versus the Europe. That was the West and the East. We did not have it in the equation at all. Americas did not count during old history.
Oh, because they were never.
There was
okay.
no.
I'm thinking about modern West. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Even today, they're a modern society, Western
Right.
society.
Okay,
The
so
West.
my
Very true.
My bad.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
true.
I was wrong history timeline.
No,
Can I
but
just
it's
point one
actually-
thing out before we get
Yeah,
started?
what's up?
I'm the digger.
Oh, we're digging.
Yeah.
We're digging.
Yeah,
deep today.
we're already digging a hole.
Yeah.
We're already minus one to 0 on deep thoughts here.
Yep.
So that actually I kind of lost. Oh, so you don't distract me like that. So
You're
that
fucking-
really begs the question: what do we know of Socrates? Anybody?
I am not an expert exactly in the particular people. I am very much an expert in the ideas, but not the people who thought of them. So
All right. Well, what was his main idea?
I said I'm not an expert in the in what their idea was. I just know.
And you are an expert in Socrates'
Are you
idea.
in reference?
Am
Are
I?
you in reference to his method, his excellent method?
What method?
Yeah, his philosophy, his general philosophy. What was it?
I don't know. But
That
like,
we know
if you were
nothing. I don't know. That is his philosophy. We don't know.
to- Okay. Well, now I can talk about it. See? Now we got started. See?
Socrates was a man who was in constant pursuit of knowledge. He was humble in the sense that he didn't believe that anybody knew anything.
Wasn't he the one that made the quote, or maybe I'm just thinking of someone else. But there was a quote I swear I heard that was like, unknowing that you know nothing is the beginning of wisdom. or something like that. I know that someone said that.
Yeah, it might have been Pluto. It might have been him or Aristotle or somebody. But basically, his philosophical stance on anything is that any the to to understand anything is to accept the basic truth that we know nothing at all. We are in constant
Yes.
pursuit of what we do not know.
Yeah.
His main goal was to challenge, and this is what got him persecuted by the government of the time. His main goal, and why the Socrates method is so important, is his main goal is to challenge people to critically think about their stances and identify what they actually stand for. And basically, our boy Socrates got killed by the government for this because the government doesn't like free thinkers. They are dangerous to the world order, and so it was off with his head.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well,
yeah.
Death by
Man,
Hemlock.
fuck
But
Marines.
yeah, no.
And so, why
It
is
was,
that?
it was less off the head, more of poison, but still.
Well, yeah, they made him train. The point I'm making here is the guy they should have been literally thanking for trying to bring enlightenment to the youth and challenge and pursue knowledge. They fucking gave him poison because the government likes their workers dumb
They're
and
controlled.
paying taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's how the education still runs today. The education system. It's full of.
Oh, does it?
Oh yeah. I can tell you, I was just fucking in it. I'm only 20.
Oh.
It hasn't fucking changed. Trust me.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah, trust me, I was just fucking in it. It's like it's only been like 2 years since I got out of it. Like, Jesus, like, they don't give you any freedom to actually pursue things that you're interested in. You're forced to take classes that you don't want to take, and then you're forced to memorize things rather than actually understand concepts. Like,
Well, why do you
They're-
think that is?
because they're training workers. It's not I think, it's I know. They want to just train people who are mindless slaves who just work for the rest of
I
their
would
life.
I would argue in a way they're not even training workers because half the people I train don't know what the fuck they're doing. But
Yeah.
No, that's valid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because critical thinking isn't taught in schools. Like, it's not. And it really should.
What's taught in schools is memorization of
Yes,
topics that
exactly.
You guys are
always
all
needed.
forgetting. You guys are all forgetting the absolute golden rule. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been Einstein. I might be mistaken on that, but he said to never let school get in the way of your education. Right?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
how do you critically think, Jacob? Sorry to interrupt you, Keith. How do you think you critically think?
It's like reanalyzing what you think and questioning all the time what you actually think.
Asking the question why,
Yes, exactly. Pretty much. That's a good way
and then
to summarize it.
pursuing.
Because you can
So-
just ask why and then not actually like pursue it and then actually try and like invest yourself in trying to find an answer and say you just ask why. But like if you actually genuinely want to know the answer, then if you ask yourself properly, then I think you will come to some sort of conclusion on that.
Well, the military does a really, really interesting aspect on that, where they use the 5 whys, right?
Oh.
Typically, whenever they're dealing with a problem, ask yourself why 5 times, and typically by the time you get to the 5th why, you have found the root cause of the issue, right?
Okay.
So it's like, the vehicle is out of gas. Why is the vehicle out of gas? Well, because of this. Why did that happen? Well, because of this. Why did that
Stupid.
happen?
So it's a string of
And-
thoughts, yeah.
It's a string of, basically it's a string of thoughts, and it's a recreation of the actions that got to that point, right?
Do you know the question you're always asking yourself when you're in the army? Why am I running?
Why am I in the army?
Why am I here?
Yeah.
Well, no, right. Why am I running? And when is it over? Because that's all you fucking do in the army is run.
Yep.
But bringing it full circle, yes, critical thinking, and that's basically and that's basically one of the foundational pillars of our current. So this is why this is so important. This is why this is so important to bring up is critical thinking by Socrates. Socrates started a chain reaction that our forefather, like our future ancestors would embark on, where they would basically form the governments and the societies that we know today.
Hmm.
And they would literally build upon his principles. And
Yep.
through the shape and the founding principle of that, to understand to overarchingly understand how our government is supposed to function, or why it functions the way that it is, and why, in my opinion, our society is breaking down, we need to understand fundamentally what morals and ethics are.
Right.
Does anybody know what morals are?
Well, it's whatever you believe to be right and to be the correct course of action.
Do you know what ethics are?
You could probably expand on it further for me. I mean,
They're the same as morals, but there is one arcing difference between them.
yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you a question.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask you a little bit of a controversial question.
Okay.
What is your stance on abortion?
So that's actually an interesting question because originally my stance was, it was basically originally I was thinking, well, I think that abortion is completely wrong. But the biggest issue is that our society as a whole does not consider abortion to be, or consider a fetus to be a live being. And so, what right do I have to impose my will onto someone else? But so my general opinion on abortion is that nobody should have the ability to impose their will on someone else. But personally, if I were to have sex with a girl, I would understand the risks associated with it, and if she were to get pregnant, I would not have an abortion because like I understand that. And so basically, what I'm saying is I wouldn't have sex like stupidly.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair. So was that your initial stance on abortion?
Um,
So you took a pro-life stance initially? Is that
I took yeah, it was originally when I was like 17. I want to say it was a pro-life or pro-choice stance actually, but then
Okay.
it switched over to the stance that I just told you. Sorry, I kind
Okay.
of mixed up my words. But
okay? That's what I was hoping you would say. You kind of took the wind out of my sails when you gave the pro-life, but it's okay. We're gonna work with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna ask, why do you think your stance originally is pro-choice?
because I mean,
It's not a gotcha. Like think about it. Why do you think your stance is pro-choice? Keith already knows the answer.
can I think about that and get back to you?
Sure.
Well, yeah, you can. Any pro-choicers in here? We got any pro-choicers?
Uh,
Because like basically to summarize, like I personally, like if I were in a relationship with a girl, my answer
Yeah.
is pro-life.
Yeah. That's not what I'm like. We'll expand on that. But why I'm asking you this specific, why it would be pro-choice? Do you think it would be? It's not a guy. Here. I'll tell you. It's literally what ethics is.
Yeah.
So ethics is defined by the moral good or evil of your society.
Yeah.
So our laws are in favor of pro-choice. Therefore, your default setting for most people, if I ask them that question, is going to be pro-choice. Because they never think about it, because their society says is a pro-choice society.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
I go
Exactly.
to Africa and ask that question, they're going to have a completely different answer.
Yeah.
Because their society is built on a different set of ethics. And that's the difference between morals and ethics. Morals are your personal compass for good and evil. Ethics is your laws.
It's a groups.
Oh, it's moral
groups.
laws. Okay.
It's your
Really? Okay.
Yes, it's your laws.
I never
The
knew
law
that.
is founded on ethics. It's the here a less controversial one. Do you think it's wrong to murder somebody?
Yes, absolutely. And so that's
Why do you
okay. And now, so here we go back. It's like if a fetus is considered a living being, then how do you have the right
Yeah.
to kill it?
Oh.
So
Right, but that would be your personal morality.
yeah,
But if I ask you, is it wrong to murder somebody, and I again will ask you why, you've never really thought about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like you've never thought about it, but you've never questioned in your life why it would be unjustifiable to murder somebody, because in your society you've been taught through schools, through your social peers and everybody around you, that it is wrong to murder somebody because that is the ethics of your country.
Yeah.
That is the ethics of your society.
Yeah. It's true. If you were to grow up in a cannibalism tribe, then
Oh yeah, you'd be eating fuckers all day.
yeah, and you'd be like, well, no, that's normal.
Right.
Does that make absolute morals subjective?
Yes. They absolutely are. And this is why I think Nietzschean is a bozo.
I would disagree. I would
Because
say that absolute morals are not subjective because they're absolute morals. That's the point, is they're supposed to be absolute and truth. And
well,
the utmost ideal.
Nietzschean's perspective though is that there is no morals. It's all in your head.
Now, I see where you're both coming from, but at the same time, it goes back to the child rearing question of nature versus nurture, right? You grew up in like the West, you didn't have an issue popping somebody, right? You grow up in a civilized society, well, now it's a, gray area. Do we do it? Capital punishment was once, totally freaking cool. Now, now that doesn't happen, right?
But why does it not happen? That's the question. How does it get from that point to this point?
So that would be an absolute moral. It's like we figured out, wait, no, this is wrong.
But did we figure out it's wrong?
Well, that's the thing, is that absolute morals, I see what you're saying, but you don't think that there are some morals that are you think that murdering is subjective and that there is not an absolute moral?
Yes, there is. Murder is subjective depending on what you define as murder. Okay. Because, and this is where it goes back to the ethics of your society and the law. The law defines, this is why the law has two definitions of like murder, not say murder, but homicide. Homicide is the death of somebody. Murder is a type of death of somebody.
Okay, so
murder is the deliberate planning and motive of deliberately killing somebody. Whereas a homicide is just is not necessarily criminal, but the death of somebody.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my question then. Is murder an absolute moral that is it's an absolute moral wrong?
It's I think it's subjective because if you're trying to murder me, do I not have the right to defend myself and preserve my life? What gives you the right to try and take my life and say that I can't preserve my life?
Okay, so you're the obviously self-defense, and that is part of our law. You can defend yourself.
Right. But depending on where your moral compass comes from, and if you follow the principles of Nietzschean, that is subjective. I'm murdering you. It's not an absolute because I'm taking your life. I'm planning on deliberately taking your life because you're doing a harm to me.
So if Nietzsche's perspective is that murder is subjective, then don't you agree with him? Because you're saying that...
No, because self-defense is a righteous good.
Okay, and that I can agree with. Yes.
And I have the presumption of innocence under the court of law. Nobody ever said I murdered.
Yeah.
A jury of my peers determines whether I murdered you or not. Whether I killed you was justifiable or not.
Is there different terms between murdering someone and killing someone in self-defense, or is it just murder?
Yes, it's self-defense. That's why it's called self-defense. But if you break it down to the simplest terms, it's basically
it's still murder.
It's basically murder.
It's
it's one is justifiable murder under the law. One is not.
Yeah.
But only a court of law, with a jury of my peers, do they decide based on the evidence that I provide if it's justifiable or not. That's why any good self-defense attorney will tell you that when you're faced with conflict, you're better off to run with your tail between your legs than even have to defend yourself.
Okay.
Because you never know when a jury is going to go. You never know how it's going to actually turn out.
Yeah.
And that's why in some certain cases, and I know we're not getting off topic, but we're kind of a little bit. But that's why some cases it's better off to have a judge. It's better off not to have a jury and go by the letter of the law than it is to have a jury. Because a jury is a bunch of humans swayed by emotion.
Okay.
Like, let's say that I killed your child, or let's say that I did something very graphically heinous to your child, and you murdered me. Under the law, that you may have committed first degree murder, but your peers all have children, let's say, or they're all people of the same morals and ethics that you have, and they go, well, if somebody did this to my child, I'd kill him
Understandable.
too. I'd
Yeah.
kill him too.
Yeah.
They'll clear you. They will literally, and they can, and
Okay.
juries have done this. They will literally say you're not guilty,
But
even though
that
technically under the law you are.
okay, but that's according to our laws. That's not according to an absolute moral law. And if they do exist, which I think they do exist, murder is wrong no matter what, in my personal opinion, no matter what. You can defend yourself, but if you kill someone, you still killed someone at the end of the day. Because look, there's this idea that there's two ways to look at the outcome of something. It's first of all the intent. Well, the intent was to defend yourself, but the outcome was that you killed someone. So it's morally bad. And I go by that. So it's like, unless if the intent is good and the outcome is good, then it's morally good. But otherwise, if the
What if
intent
there
was
was no
bad,
other way though?
if
Yeah.
there was,
Well,
well, still you killed someone. At the end of the day, someone has died because of your hands, and so that makes it wrong in my eyes.
Yeah, but not. Yeah, but not if
can
you-
I just jump
Yeah,
in for one
yeah,
quick second?
yeah.
Can I get you to explain what do you mean by good? Right?
Uh,
And the reason that I'm asking you to explain that is because does it mean you can sleep at night? Like you're content
I think it
with
frees
your
your.
choice?
I think it frees your consciousness. Like if you kill someone in self-defense, like you
Yeah.
still get traumatized by that. People still get traumatized by that. So
Yeah, but do all people get traumatized by that?
'Cause
Because
there are people-
not everybody has the same moral ethics or morals as you do.
right.
Yeah.
So then I would question the moral compass. That's what I would do.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
That might be
right,
brutal,
but-
but that's my honest opinion.
No. That's a fair point. But my point is, just because you're judging them by your own morals, does that mean that they did something that was an absolute evil? See, this is where this becomes complicated, because you're selfishly using your moral compass to impose on somebody else.
As the
Because
baseline.
it is my more exactly. So then it all becomes back to being subjective, which
Well, though, that's what the law is for. That's why we have ethics.
Mhm.
So then we go.
And-
So there's your personal moral compass, right? Well, I don't agree with your personal moral compass. I think there are justifiable there are justifiable circumstances to kill somebody, and there are good instances where killing somebody is justifiable.
right.
Now, we live in a democracy. I make the argument, and I have enough of the population who agrees with me, and I have enough people in the government who agree with me. Now they make the laws. Now, if you are if you're an ethical good person, you now have to respect and follow those laws. So now your moral compass is completely out of the question, because now you're compelled to follow the ethics of society.
So does that not make it ethically wrong to begin with? Because then I don't have a choice. Now, of course,
Well,
it's
you have a
beneficial-
choice. You have
it's
free will.
beneficial. It's beneficial to the society because then we can continue to be productive and generous and reciprocal.
Right.
But
Right.
at the cost of not allowing me to have all of my own. And now it sounds selfish, but that's why it's a society, and you have to compromise on these things.
Right.
So I
But
get where
that's
you're coming
why. But that's my argument for why Nietzschean is goofy, because
Okay.
Nietzschean says that you should just go by your own moral compass. But let's say you go off and you start just doing your own moral compass and you ignore the ethics of your society. Well, the thing why we have a government in the first place, and why the government is our ethics, is because the government controls the ultimate supreme, the supreme authority on earth, the imperial truth of violence. Violence is the supreme authority, and it is wielded by the government.
Yep.
So you start going
I
and
could
becoming a
explain.
criminal. Oh, what's up?
I was gonna say, I can explain something in a nerd fashion as
Please do.
part of this problem.
Please do.
Yeah, go ahead.
When it comes to the ethics on murder, we have no better moral compass when it comes to how Batman views the subject. A hero who's all about, saving lives and not committing to murder. But how many people by proxy does he get killed by not killing villains like the Joker? How many people die by inactivity?
Right, and that's where we get very complicated, and then you have to go with you got to also be reminded the technical term that Batman is technically a vigilante. He's not a hero.
Yes, exactly. Glad that you mentioned that.
But
I don't know. I'm
Well-
of the sound mind of Darwinism, or not Darwinism. Ugh. What the hell is it? Fucking names.
You can describe it.
It's another D word. What's that goddamn award?
Dwarfism?
What? No, what is that award they give
Nobel?
out every year? No,
The
it's for
Nobel?
stupid people.
Nobel Prize?
No, it is. It is the Darwin Award.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was right. I firmly believe in Darwinism, and that's why I believe everyone in society should have a gun. That's my 2 cents, right?
Okay.
Everyone in society should have a gun, and because of Darwinism, it will just sort itself out, right? We will get rid of the people that do not wish to follow a ethical, just society
Mhm.
on our own.
Well, at that point, do we have an ethical, just society? Because a key component of that is a key component of it. So you're more. I see you're more with the ethics of libertarian and self determination, where
Well,
like the Wild West, basically before these things were centralized. Because this is also another component of this is that the reason why it's important to understand our government and how we get here is the reason that the government, like I was going with, wields supreme violence is so that individuals like Keith don't have to. That's the philosophy goal behind that. Because if the government's not doing it, people are not just going to lay down in the street and die. Whether you're justified in attacking them or doing anything to them, they're not just going to sit there and die. Because the thing, like, kind of backtracking, ethics and morals are only unique to humans. If you go out into the wild with animals, they don't know what ethics and morals are. It's dog eat dog.
Yeah.
You kill to live.
Yep.
That is the ultimate imperial truth of the earth, is that the strong survive and the weak do not.
Yep.
This is big foundation for why I think murder is subjective, because at the end of the day, I want to live, and I'm going to kick, claw, and scream to fucking live.
Mhm.
But why I think Nietzschean, because I was just watching this video, is a little goofy. Why he's goofy in this, where I was going with this is, if you follow Nietzschean's thought process, the reason he thinks that morals and ethics don't really exist and they're centralized, like basically you just pick your own as an individual, because he bases it on the strong used to rule ancient Rome, and then the plebeians revolted, and then they created the good guys Christian framework that we have today. But the component that he misses out on is that if you do what Nietzschean is saying to do, the government is going to come and they're going to straighten out that ass. So, like, the supreme authority, like, we have the use of force. There isn't just, people aren't just out here following the law because it's the right thing to do. They follow the law because they don't want the boys in blue to come and beat that ass. That's why.
So it's
That
a
is-
form, it's
Right.
it's a scare tactic, fundamentally.
It is.
And so it doesn't.
That
Okay.
That is what the criminal justice system is. Law and order is literally order in chaos. If you do not have law and order, you have chaos.
Yep. Too much order can also be a bad thing for a society as well, because then
Absolutely.
people will seek chaos.
Absolutely. And that's where I feel like a lot of our current issues are, is that we have gone too far into the era of chaos, and now we have morally and ethically void people who are just out here doing whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And the
That's
law is completely enabling this, which is causing even further chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And
When
that's how you
these-
have people who are wandering the streets, half naked to celebrate their or gender orientation. Which do you really want to make your entire identity your gender and like who you're attracted to sexually? Like, is that what you want to base yourself off? Is just that? Because I think you're a lot more than just that. But that's what people are. It's the most basic form of hedonism at this point. Is how I
Well,
see it.
right. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but that's the surface level. I think more spiritually and more from a systematic view, it's more because this is how the Roman Empire felt. Because I was watching a video about this, and it was actually really eye opening, because a lot of conservative people they think that gays caused a big portion of the collapse of Rome, and it leads to a hedonism, like the same kind of train of thought that you're going with this hedonism stuff. But really, Rome had a bunch of flaming homos. They were all over the place. Everybody was fucking everybody in Rome. The difference in Rome was the ethical societal expectation was you better be pumping out kids, because if you're out here just doing this, we're gonna put you to death.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it's a no.
Yeah.
Now, that is as though, and that also goes with feminism and other social issues within the country. And one of the key components of why Rome fell was the lessening of those social frameworks and basically the order of things.
Yep.
As they loosened the order of things and they further went down hedonism, their society collapsed. It wasn't that they had gay people. Romans didn't care about being gay. They were actually very tolerant of homosexuality. It was the loosening of social norms and social cohesion and it was a consequence of that.
Okay.
You
Yep.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I was following that. Yep.
And when I was doing a project in college, I actually that was and around so how we got to the society that we have today was Rome basically found Catholicism, because as Rome collapsed, Catholicism was allowed to thrive.
Okay.
And then Catholicism oppressed homosexuality.
Yes.
Now, we're led to believe that gays were never tolerated, and depending on whose account of that you want to trust, but it wasn't so much that gays were hunted in the streets. It was so much that they were not tolerated in open public society. It was something that you were expected to do behind closed doors. There were tightened social norms. They brought those social norms and that conservative cohesion back,
Mhm.
which then spawned into Europe. It spread Catholicism, and then basically got the two country like America and Canada, like the countries that we have today. The British Empire flourished
Right.
because of these things.
Okay.
Those are the when you look at the United States' most prosperous time, it was when the United States was the most conservative and
Which
faith-based.
Okay, yep, and that makes sense because obviously, considers traditionally, well, they have traditional values, and obviously over time you can see that traditional values have brought us to where we are now, and so if the values that have brought us to where we are now were powerful back then they should still be powerful now, and so sure enough, history repeats itself. Um,
In a way, yes,
Mhm.
but not necessarily. Like, this is where the ethics comes in. The law and order comes in.
Yeah.
What Keith's talking about with guns.
Yeah.
One of the reasons we even have police is because as the country grows, you need to be able to manage people from colonies. Even here, this is how we formed our government, because you basically need a manager. We
Yeah.
need a central power in which we can bring our ideas.
Yeah.
there's a lot more to it. Like there's also there's also James Madison, the founder of free speech. He's the Bill of Rights. Like literally, that's one of the things that made the United States such an amazing founding of a country, because they looked at like the Roman Empire, its mistakes, and they didn't want to make it. But more importantly, they realized that people like Socrates, like the suppression of debate, free expression, and just general ideas was not healthy for a society. They wanted these things brought out to light, and so ethically, they thought it was it was an absolute good. It was
Yeah.
an absolute good to be able to express yourself,
Yeah.
and that is where free speech in the United States really comes from.
Yeah.
That
Can I
is why
just
it is the First Amendment. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I absolutely wanted to expand on this. Like the leader of a country should be able to be a representative of the amalgamation of the population, right? That's why you vote for the person that you vote for, because and then they're the person that wins. It's because they want to serve in your best interest. Now, whether or not they do and whether or not the government is corrupted is a different question. I don't know if we want to dive into that, but I feel like that's kind of the
Well,
path we're going down.
we can, because there's also a flaw. There's a flaw in that logic. That's why the United States created the Electoral College, because they looked at places that exercise That's why the United States is not a democracy. As much as people like to scream
No,
it
it's
is,
not. What is it called again? It's
it
not.
is a constitutional republic.
Yes, that's right.
There
Yeah,
is,
I've heard that.
there is no true democracies. Even Canada is a constitutional monarchy. You don't want a
Yes.
democracy because nothing gets done in a
Yes,
democracy.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, I remember hearing that.
So, one of the problem, like, and this is Canada actually suffers from the issue that you're talking about. So why the Electoral College was created was literally to combat the opinion that you're sharing right now.
Mhm.
Because the main principal problem of that idea that nobody really is able to solve is that you become the majority begins to be a tyrant to the minority.
Two
Yeah.
wolves
So
and a sheep decide what's for supper.
exactly, like Canada's recent election was literally decided by one city because of the massive population it was.
Yeah.
If you look at the populations of the United States, if they had the kind of representation system that we have here, California would literally win every election.
Okay.
New
Yeah.
York would
Okay.
literally
Yes.
win
Yes.
every election.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
have the representation.
Yep. Completely understood that. Yeah.
And that's why we have a lot of the problems we have here, because literally a bunch of baby boomers who retire and have accumulated their wealth and bought into, I'm not going to say lies per se, but like they they belong to a certain time period and code of ethics. Like they literally were able to decide the election for the rest of us.
Yep.
We have literally for a decade and continuing on have literally had a party that has been an absolute failure and was able to be re-elected by one city.
Yep.
Like if you go look at our
Yep.
voting statistics, the Conservatives should have won almost the last 3 elections, and the only reason they didn't was because of that system.
I understand because I did see our entire like electorate map, and it's like it was mostly, what is it? Are we blue for conservative in
Yes.
Canada? Yeah, so it was like mostly blue, but yet Ottawa and like the really densely populated areas, that's what did it. But
Now, oh
yeah,
yeah,
I wanted to ask, okay, because I'm curious, but doesn't that make sense because they're densely populated? That is the majority representation of the population.
yeah, but you have to the flaw in your argument, or what I'm going to ask you to justify, is why the majority should rule for everybody.
I mean, I
Like
can't really, I
why
don't, I was honestly asking you a question. I don't really know. I don't know how to justify what I was saying because I know what you're saying too. So
it really depends on and Keith, feel free to jump in here. It
Yeah,
really
yeah.
like it really it depends on where your ethic or your morality, again, your morality is. Are you somebody who believes that the what's the word I'm looking for, the rights of the many outweigh the rights of the few? So like, are you somebody who genuinely stands for the will of the people? But then you got to get into the weeds of, well, what if the people are stupid? Like he's talking about Darwinism. You just highlighted something when we started here. The school system is absolutely garbage, and nobody, if you actually go talk to people, nobody actually even knows any of the policies or of anybody they voted for. They literally voted for them
Oh yeah.
because they're giving them free shit.
Oh yeah.
So we
Because
have we have a bunch of voting in incompetent governments, and it's destroying our country. So at what point? So now the question becomes: should the majority like? Should we even be taking the? It's basically an argument. It goes back to a justification for feudalism, where should you earn citizenship and the right to vote? Should you even have the right to vote?
right.
Because these people
Because
it,
they've been liberal their entire life, let's just say. So it's like they're just locked on that. And sometimes liberals do have like absolutely valid policies in that.
they do.
So it's like, but when you just get so blinded, it's like, oh, I'm liberal because it's like, well, I've always voted for liberal. It's like you might want to reconsider that.
But it's also, and this is why I'm bringing this up. Try it like talking about how the government is supposed to, or how it's intended to function, because even our parliament is not designed to function that way. The reason you're allowed to have multiple parties in our parliament is you're supposed to be voting for the people who represent your ideas. And this is one of my biggest critiques of current liberal politics is that you have a bunch of people who literally do not practice what they preach.
Oh yes,
They
exactly.
they will vote for pro-choice. They will vote for how's the best way to, like, they'll vote for like prostitution should be legal, or you should be able to do all these kinds of drugs, or women should be able to rape men through the coals for whatever, and then they'll go and they'll have traditional monogamous lives. It makes no sense.
Yes, I understand what you're
They
saying.
don't-
Exactly. They don't understand what they're voting for, is what you're saying.
Well, or they just vote for the exact opposite of what they do. They vote like, there have been studies done on this. Like, women literally, the way we're kind of getting a little bit into the weeds, but women are evolutionary designed to be social creatures, so they literally go with what's popular. So these ideas right now in our culture are popular, therefore they vote for them.
I
They
have a
do not
question.
think about the consequences.
Can I make a comment to that, Justin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, I feel free to disagree with me on this, but men don't understand women, right? We do not understand women. It's a proven fact. You can put all the paperwork you want in front of us. Men do not understand women. Do you know who understands women?
Nobody.
Women understand women.
They don't understand women either.
And you know what else women do?
Yeah, what's that?
Women hate other women.
Yes.
Women keep women down,
Yes, they do.
right?
This
So
is another study that, in fact, that's been done.
I just want to put that out, and I do believe that was something that was put out by the absolute great, fantastic Al Bundy. Thank you very much for those words of wisdom and knowledge, sir. Greatly
So
appreciated.
that was a study, or
Wait.
like that's
No,
proven?
they've done. I'm not going to say it's proven, but they've
Okay.
done actual studies.
Al Bundy.
Yeah,
Yes, Al
Married with
Bundy.
Children. Yeah, Married with Children. These are not new concepts.
Love
These,
and marriage, love and
What
marriage.
the fuck?
these have been
Sorry,
in this cultural
had to.
cycle forever.
It's all good.
As long as feminism and anything has been around. But the core point is, and it's not to bash women. It's literally the way women are hard
Well,
evolutionary.
yes, that part. I was curious how you said we're kind of getting the weeds whenever you're stating a biological fact. Like, why are you scared to say this stuff?
Not scared, but people misinterpret it as you're women bashing, because again, our current school system is very stupid.
Right.
Like, I would literally in high school, I would get attacked by my female classmates, and like my teacher would kind of look at, because they would say something that should be fucking completely obvious like this, and I would literally raise my hand and go, but that's the way it is. What's going on? and they would literally proclaim the opposite, that it's not. And even though the evidence, like literally, it would be in the textbook that they would be reading, and the teacher would literally put like the best way to put it, a liberal bias toward like you would literally read in the textbook that it is proven that children thrive in a traditional family of two parents in a household, married,
Yes, that
happy.
is. Yes, that is. That is.
And your teacher would literally sit there and go, single women can do it too, but the book does not say
They
that.
can. Oh, they can do it, but is it going to be better for the child? Absolutely not.
Right.
Actually, it's
So,
a proven fact in a single-family household, men raise the children better.
Oh, I didn't know that.
well,
That's
they
proven
don't
fact.
even they don't even touch on that. Fuck men. We're just I'm just saying I'm not saying I shouldn't say they can't do it. That's wrong. But what they will do is they will literally sit there in front of you, say the book is wrong. Single women can do it just as good as a nuclear family.
And
What are you
they
talking?
they is like it's still subjective. Like obviously some women are smart and they'll be like, yeah, no, I can admit, like, you know, like they're able to admit. So,
Oh,
but like I know what you're saying though. The majority, they are not able to admit that.
Well, it's more about like my mom has a friend who she was a single mom. She was actually a single teenage mom, and she literally busted her ass. She went to college at 18, and she became successful. She raised her daughter. She did everything that she could, like, but she is the exception to the rule. She is not the rule. And when you say that, women just go lose their minds. But like uh, but what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to piggyback off of what you were saying earlier, is that our schools, even when, like our teachers, our schools, even when the book that the academic research or the book is there telling them something, they will literally tell you different. And you as a child you're only as good as the information you're being provided. You literally accept it as fact because because you're being told this from an authority figure.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you ever heard that women can do the exact same thing that a man can do?
Oh, exactly. They can't. That's like, and that's just
God, every damn
biologically,
time.
like,
Yeah, don't say that out. Don't say that though. Like we literally have a society where we have to pretend that facts are not facts. This is
well,
the ethical dilemma here.
I want to re say my words though, because like women can, but there's things that men are a lot better at than women, and there are things that women are a lot better at than men.
Sure, there
Yes,
absolutely is.
you know,
But they're
like,
saying that men and women are equal.
yeah,
That's not true.
no.
Like
We
I have literally watched
our
12-year-old.
I want to say our lives are equal. Like my value, my human life is just as valuable as theirs.
Yes.
It's just we have different strengths and weaknesses each.
Right, but you're not allowed to say that.
Somehow.
You literally. Well, I'm being 50, but the philosophy, the current ethical philosophy is that women are equal to men in every way, even though a 12-year-old boy can literally beat the crap out of an adult woman with ease.
Mhm. For the
Like
most
this
part,
is,
yes, exactly, yeah. And
and
that's just
you
that's
are
a biological fact. But I know what you're saying. If you say that, then it's like, wow,
you're wrong.
yeah.
Like
Can I just backtrack for a moment to can I go back to the abortion thing for a quick second?
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
like there were a lot of interesting points that were made, and
I'd love to hear.
it was from personal perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Personal
Yeah.
perspectives. I myself am absolutely 100% pro-life, right?
Okay.
100% pro-life, but what I don't understand is everybody not well, no, that's an understatement or an overstatement. The majority of people don't see. Oh shit! A majority of people don't really see it for what it is, right? It's life is basically a giant Ponzi scheme, right? How, like, where does old age pension come from? Where does a lot of our money come from whenever we retire as individuals?
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Where does it come from? People that are working, it comes from taxes.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
yeah.
Comes
Yeah.
from what we pay in. The more that abortions go on, the less people that are getting placed back into our society to contribute to our old age pension. Meaning, at some point, there are going to be fewer people going into the workforce than there are people that are retiring. So we will eventually, old age pension is going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to have the people to fulfill it.
And
Right?
well, okay, sorry, finish.
Yeah, at that point, we're 100% screwed. So, yes, I get it. I understand. People want to have their fun. Cool. There's responsible ways to do it. And if you're not willing to be responsible, in my opinion, you shouldn't be doing it.
And that's I'm gonna butcher his name because I was just watching a video, and that's Kurtz, the guy who created moral and ethics. That's his philosophy. Responsibility. You have a response. You have it. Yeah, it is. He views it unethical. He views it unethical to waste your life and to fall into like you. If you are not being your best, doing your best potential, you are living an unethical life. And but that also brings to the question now, and this is the thing: is abortion ethical? Is it a net positive for society?
Yeah, personal opinion, absolutely not. Because once again, by doing so, you are reducing the amount of people in society. You are reducing the potential workforce. You are cutting down on society's potential to produce taxes and pay for future programs that everyone is, so gangbusters over. But no one sees it as that. Everyone sees it as, gimme, 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 living my best life type deal.
Yeah,
right?
and so, well, you heard my opinion on abortion already, and so I'd like to add to that. Basically, like I said, like like a lot of people don't see a fetus as a human life, and so
here we go. Here we see
that. Exactly.
Now
What's
we're
the
getting
fine
into
line?
the
And
weeds here.
usually I can trick people. Well, not trick them. I'm basically just pointing out the fact, and then they kind of get speechless after I trick them. But I use the word trick because it's basically just calling them out because I eventually get them to lead down the path where they admit that yes, it is a human life. Because it's like, well, what makes a human life? It's like, well, they have fingers. Okay, let's just say they okay, after 8 weeks, then yes, it becomes a human life. It's like, okay, but what about 7 weeks and 6 days? Is that all of a sudden not a human life? And then I'm able to usually lead them down that path until eventually they kind of realize that it yes, exactly. And then it's like, shit, wait, it's technically a human life from the beginning. It's just a different form. It's like how it becomes a fetus, then it becomes a baby, then it becomes an infant, then it becomes an adolescent, then it becomes an adult, And so it's all just different lives, cycles of life,
Even before all that, it's a zygote. So, I mean...
And so, basically how I wanted to wrap this up, though, is because, well, obviously, some people... they obviously don't see it like that, and they see that the fetus is not alive, and so that is basically down to subjective. It's subjective to a certain extent, because there's just there's no absolute law that says that a fetus is a human life, and so basically, if it's not declared as a human life, then pro-choice makes sense, because, well, it's not a human life,
and it's almost like the government did that on purpose.
That's interesting that you point that out like that. But you still heard my point at the end, though, is that I am officially pro-life, but to others I can't impose my will on others because it's technically subjective.
Oh, but you can impose your will on others.
How so?
Well, how do you think pro-choice became law in the first place?
You vote on it.
Yeah, you.
That's what the government is there. Exactly, the government. You vote in the people for the policies that you want. The people who vote in the people decide the ethics of your society.
But does that make it right? Because then the people who still believe that it's wrong because they don't think that it's a human life.
Planned Parenthood doesn't give a fuck what you think is their vote. Like, this is the thing. Your enemy. Like, it goes back. This is what annoys me about Nietzschean's thing, or like a little bit of your philosophy here is
I can see how
sit-
we disagree. Yeah,
yeah,
realizing. Yeah.
but like you're like murder is bad regardless, and I agree with you to an extent, but you need to realize, or you haven't come to grips, or you just haven't thought about it. Your enemies don't give a fuck about your moral compass. They're still gonna come and kill you with the pickaxe. Planned Parenthood doesn't give a fuck what you think is right or wrong. They're going to vote in the people who vote in their policies. It is in women's best interest to have abortions. Therefore, they're going to fight like tooth and nail to protect that right. As they view it, their right.
Right.
So if you want to beat your enemies, or if you think that abortion is an evil, which is what I think is how you feel about this, it is an unethical, it is an evil, then do you not have a duty to combat that evil?
Do I have
Do you
an
not have a responsibility
Do I have a responsibility to combat it? Okay. So
and a moral
basically,
obligation?
basically because I'm kind of on the fence because I'm both pro-choice and pro-life, but pro-choice as a society as a whole, but pro-life as a personal relationship. That's basically
And
where you're
and
getting
me and right. And this is the problem with our current society, and why I like to call the conservatives the conservacucks, because they lack the willpower to even, they lack the willpower to win. It's this constant crap of, well, this is what I think, or this is what I can't force my will.
I know.
While your enemies are literally enforcing their will upon you.
I know how I can answer your question. I believe there are morals that go beyond that. There's tiers to morals, and so basically, so I have a moral responsibility to, you know, do as I think is right. But then there's a moral or a moral law for myself anyway above that, where I can't impose my will on others. That is higher to me than my own personal responsibility. If you want to try and combat that, by all means.
Oh, I can. I can combat that easily. I think you have an ethical responsibility to combat something that you think is morally reprehensible, and that doesn't mean that
But
you go violently. You
mhm.
can literally vote for the policies that you want to see. Like, you should be voting for pro-life candidates. You should be trying to have a pro-life agenda, because let's follow your trait. You just said that a fetus is a human life, so a fetus is a child,
Yeah.
right? Now, this
But
is why I brought this up.
that's my subjective opinion because
Okay.
it's not there's no it's such a gray area. Like people see it differently, and we can say it all we want that we think that a fetus is an actual child, but it's never there's no official anything, that says
Why
because a
why
fetus is
why is
not the
that
same as a human according to like there's no
the law?
study that there's because there's studies that shows that like humans like we
Okay.
obviously came from fetuses, so fetuses and humans are the same thing, but it's still it's completely subjective. So how do I have a right to overrule someone else's choice with with themselves?
Because, well, this is the thing. It comes down to it comes down to what you believe is the greater good or not. So
And
I'll give you
I
the
believe
human
someone
version of a
else's
caterpillar?
choice is a greater good.
Hold
okay.
up. Sean,
But
what
the
are you
fact-
saying?
What's that?
I said, is the human fetus like a version of a caterpillar, like for us?
Sure. Yeah. It the problem is that Jacob here is struggling with two concepts. He's struggling with two things here. He wants to respect the sanctity and the free will of another person, aka the mom or the woman.
Mhm.
I'm challenging that and saying that if you believe that a fetus is a child, as he proclaims that he believes, a child is an innocent. A child, under the law and morally and ethically, is an innocent. Therefore, I think you have an ethical obligation to fight for policies that would protect an innocent, because they don't have a choice in whether they live or die. They're completely dependent on the choice of somebody else. They're being murdered. If you think that they're a human being, which means that you must think that they have free will, their free will is being enslaved by another person.
Let me think
You
about
understand
that.
what I'm
I
saying?
do understand what you're saying. And I don't think you're wrong either. It's never been put to me like that before.
I'm gonna give you my position on it.
Okay.
I have always, since I was a kid or since I was a teenager, came up with this. I looked at abortion in a different way than other people. I looked at it. I personally think that is an ethical evil. Children are innocent. I have always viewed fetuses as children because they're human offspring. I don't go as far as Keith with the whole cell thing, but I also, because I'm a legal nerd, I understand that the law so the right to an abortion in Canada is not technically a right to an abortion. The right is the safety and security of a person. And the reason it was violated was because under the law, women were forced to not have abortions even when it would kill them.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And that's. I'm glad we're bringing that up too, because yes,
Right.
there is
Now,
still.
I believe, I believe, I believe that I
If
believe that every effort should be made to spare that child, but I am going to compromise and say that if somebody's life is threatened or in danger and they have to make that choice, then I concede that that should be a part of the law. That's my compromise.
Okay. Okay. And that I
But
100% agree with. Yeah.
the problem is that the majority of abortions are not even that case. It's the same with rape. You are
Yes.
not consenting to a sexual assault. I would still prefer if you were able to carry that child, but I understand if, and again, I concede that you should be able to do so. I don't morally agree with it, but I understand why that should be a necessary in the law.
Okay. Yeah.
The
Necessary
majority
evils,
of
right?
yes, the majority of abortions are not even those things. It
No.
is literally people partying and having unprotected sex and using it as birth control.
Yeah.
That to me is repugnant and repulsive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
And that
think
I
that
can
should be
agree
allowed.
with. I can agree with. Yeah.
And I have no problem, and my conscience is completely clear. I will vote for pro-life candidates all day, every day. I get filled with righteous anger. I do not even talk about abortion because I view it as murdering the innocent, and I don't tolerate that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't.
And
I 100%. That's just me. I am a religious fucking zealot.
right.
I will protect the innocent unapologetically. Now, the caveat that why it gets brought up in Canadian politics all the time is because, again, and I find this ethically repulsive, you can have an abortion at any term during your pregnancy because a fetus is not considered a human being until it takes its first breath or it's in the process of doing so. So, like in the birth canal, where it would be delivered
Okay. Okay.
properly.
Yeah.
Therefore, under our law, to accommodate that right, human babies are not considered human so that they can be aborted. They are not given personhood under the law.
You know, I've got to be
That is
honest. I've got to be
in the night.
honest. This talk has showed me a little something about a little more introspection into my philosophy. I'm realizing I'm very open to other people's ideas, and so that's why I have such a struggle with both um, defending, the fetus and at the same time defending the woman's right to
Oh,
abort the
but the
baby.
the problem too, Jacob, and I'm sure if most women were to even the reason, like I have a theory, most people don't even think about this issue or bring it up because when they actually sit and think about it, the only choice that you can come to if you're a decent person is pro-life. You will literally, because you have to come to terms with the fact that you are murdering a human being, or at least murdering human offspring or the potential of human. Like, no matter where you come in that argument, you have to be comfortable. And there are a lot of people, unfortunately, who are ethically and morally comfortable with that, with doing that, because it's self-serving. We used to as a society, it comes back to our duties and our obligation. So when I look at abortion, I look at it as I look at anything, personal responsibility. You exercised your free will when you decided to have unprotected sex.
Yep.
In
Yep.
today's society, unlike when this law was created, and this is why nobody ever opens it back up, because the caveat to that a lot of people miss over is the Supreme Court never said that the government cannot legislate abortion. the Supreme Court said that the current laws needed to be fixed, and then it became a stalemate within the House, and it's never been brought up since. And that's why it becomes a sticky topic every time.
Yeah.
Because they can legislate it at any time.
Right.
And this is going back, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation over a span of a month, because it's such a complicated topic. This is what the government exists for, and this is why I don't like what I don't like about young people is not that it's their fault, but like you didn't even know the legality technical the technical framework in which abortion is even applied within Canadian society or its laws.
No, because we're not taught that.
Exactly.
I have to go out of my way.
That is
Like,
exactly it.
the majority of the topics I've talked about today, if not all of them, has been all of my personal studies and reading books myself. It has not been at all
Right.
from the school system.
And that is completely wrong.
Yeah.
They should be teaching us stuff like that, or at least when I was in school, we would have debates on these things. We would have open and you were actually taught critical thinking. They have stopped doing that. It is one of the things that pisses me and Keith off immensely.
Mhm.
There's no critical thinking anymore.
Immensely.
And when you start actually thinking, and this is why, and this I'm trying to impress upon you, and at the end of the day, you have your own free will, but you need to get out of this mindset of you don't have the right, or you feel like you don't have the right to impose your will. Literally, the reason we have the country and the society, the great society that we have, is because we have imposed our will. That is what our government is for. It is for the people to impose our will in a peaceful form.
Mhm.
Because if you are not able to impose your will in a peaceful form, you then ultimately our society and the ethical structures that we've created, our ethics break down back into chaos, and then the strongest will basically take over the weak, and they will enforce their will by force. That is what how civil wars happen, because when the government, or when there is a breakdown between where nobody can compromise on ethics and what's morally correct, or there's a peaceful way to exercise these things, human beings will exercise the primordial
Keith.
ancient way that they know how, and that is through force and violence.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to try and
Thank you.
I encourage you to be more comfortable with exercising your will, feeling like you can exercise your will and stand up for the things that matter to you.
Yeah, well, see, like, the thing is, like, I know very much that I have an open mind, and so I understand other people's perspectives and where they're coming from, and I think I'm starting to realize that might be a weakness, because you've kind of opened my eyes up a little bit.
Having an open mind is never a weakness.
The weakness comes when you lack the conviction in your own, and when your morals and ethics to act. That is the weakness.
Mhm.
I am open to other people's perspectives. The only reason people think that I'm closed-minded is because I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I will listen to you, but you are not going to, unless you tell me something backed up with actual evidence and think like
Then it'll
that.
change your mind. Like, your
I will
your
change
mind
my
can
mind.
change, yeah.
But I will not. But even if I change my mind, I will not compromise on my principles and integrity. That's what principles are. They don't. You don't compromise on them. You literally take the information that you're receiving, and you apply it. I'll give you another one. When I was younger, and still do, fully support gay marriage. I think people should have the right to marry whoever they want.
Yep.
When you're parading around in a thong for a month in the streets, and you're oppressing people with basically burning trans flags or a hate crime nonsense, and using the government to enforce your will on me, that I have a problem with, and I will push back against that.
Mhm.
I don't want to stop you from being married. I don't want you to have any less rights than I do, and I don't view you as lesser than I am. I view you as somebody who is trying to oppress me with your ethics and viewpoint, and I don't agree with it. I'm going to fight back.
Along with
And I'm
literally
not
breaking
going to apologize for that.
along with literally breaking the law of indecent exposure. Just saying, like, but they overlook that because it's
Well, that goes back to the morals and ethics of society. The reason we have that law because it was viewed as ethically wrong to be exposing yourself.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Like, I don't even care necessarily they have the parade. I would prefer they didn't, because I think parades are for families and people should be able to go and enjoy them in a public space. What I fundamentally disagree with, and we're going to cover this because I wish we would have been able to cover it in this, because fun fact, if you ever watch kids, they don't have morals and ethics. We teach them morals and ethics. They
Oh
will
yes,
literally
it's completely determined by their environment that they grow up in.
yes,
Yes.
yes. They will take. It's beautiful to see. They want the red truck. Why did you take the red truck, Jimmy? Or why did you punch Timmy? Well, I wanted the red truck. It was my turn to play with it. Like, they don't give a fuck. They just take the truck.
Yep.
So when you're exposing children to these very graphic, sexually charged parades
Fuck.
that is basically a political movement, and you're just putting children in this environment, and then we wonder why children are going around saying they're gender confused or they're doing this, and it's completely unethical and wrong.
Then above that,
And
depressed.
like somebody
Our
call in the black.
suicide rates are like, I don't know what the stats are, but I'm sure they've gone up drastically in the past like 10, 20 years.
Well, yes,
They have.
our society is soulless. It has no faith in anything. It doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah.
It's just debauchery. And we'll cover that in another faith and why it's important.
Yep. We are at an hour and 11 minutes, just so you know. So I didn't
All
know
right.
if we wanted to wrap this up. We're almost done with this mission, so I don't know if anyone has any final thoughts.
Yeah, anybody?
Well, I know in the work that I do, there's a very interesting clause in our big green book that we use. Anyone that's in the field, they're gonna know what this book is. It's basically like a pocketbook of morals and ethics to follow, and one of them that I absolutely love, and I couldn't be happier having forced upon me, and I completely agree with. If you have a client, you are to have zero contact with that client outside of work for a minimum of 2 years from your last contact. I love it. I absolutely love that. Because there are people that are horrible members of society that will use something like having a client to take advantage of them. And I'm glad that somebody took the time and the forethought to write that out, that from the last point of contact that you have with a client, you have 2 years before you can see them outside of a professional setting, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely love that. Thank you for whoever wrote that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Specifically, I remember one instance. I was walking down the street one morning, and there was a gentleman sitting outside, and he was very charged, very energetic. Something was going on with him. I was not aware of it, and he opened up and provided a lot of personal information to me. And it was very interesting, and this is the first time I had ever seen this individual. And through speaking with him, I realized that one of the people that work with him was actually at my work. So I was able to go to my work and find the person that was working with him and say, hey, you're doing a fantastic job,
Mhm.
but you really should talk with them about, divulging information and really just being super free and open with it, because there are people that will take advantage of him.
Right.
This was a number of years ago, right? Um, However, that is a moral and an ethic, right?
Right.
So that we don't take advantage of other people. It's something that is written to us legally,
Mhm.
and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
that. Okay. Well,
Sean, final thoughts?
No, I have none. You'll notice I have been very quiet this entire thing. It's because I don't have much to say on the topic.
That's fair. I mean, you know, you
Sean,
did you
Sean
added
is,
some stuff.
Sean is an ethical void. This is continuing.
That's not surprising. That tracks. That really
Look.
does.
Look, I did everything in my power to not make the joke I was going to make because I'm like, yeah, this is not going to fit in here anymore.
Oh, please do.
By all means.
Well, it was more along the lines of this. Have you ever thought the Gremlins movie? Have you ever thought they're an infinite source of food? Just like drop a piece of water on him, then butcher the one that pops out. Boom,
That
free meal.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why the Gremlins came from China.
how? Oh my God. How did we get back to genocide with you? It's really, we're right back to goblin genocide.
It's a moral
Gremlin genocide.
Yeah. It's a real cycle.
And we could really mass produce this shit. Like, just like a thought I had was, if a gremlin is dead and you drop water on the dead body, does a live gremlin come out? Does the process not work? Or does it multiply a dead gremlin? Because multiplies a dead gremlin. You can drop a dead gremlin in the pool. It'll just, over time, produce more dead gremlins to the point where you have the pool full of bodies, and you can then ship that pool out with fresh meat.
See, Sean, I love you so much because you say things that nobody else would, and
Sean, they already do that.
Maybe that.
They
Maybe
already
that's
do
the
it.
pink goo in McDonald's. Like,
No,
chicken.
that's what hot dogs are.
Oh man.
Ah,
All right.
that makes so
All
much
right.
sense.
shit. Let's
And
fucking
with that,
yeah.
join us next week for when we tackle the other missing piece to this fascinating puzzle: free speech and why it's important.
Oh,
Please
And with
remember to
that-
like, share, and subscribe.
thank you,
Yes,
Keith.
if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And with that, yeah, Shitcast is signing out. Have a
Yeah.
good night, fellas.
Yeah, Justin's
Have a good
depressed.
night.
Justin's depressed.